Okay, but this one has to be, like, history things, right? Well, I mean, they still do things like this. Okay, maybe just one more.
So you really
yeah, that was horrible. Let's watch another one.
this video, huh?
This is what Emmy watches in her free time. No, like I watched a video about like the history of like Chinese dynasties. I watched some videos on like different diseases and like how they cured them and stuff, but it was like nothing like that last one. That is not what I was expecting at all. Oh my god. But anyway.
Alright, here's some cruel execution methods. Ever had like a hot burrito or something, and you take a bite and you're like, ow, this is hot. Well, imagine that, but many magnitudes worse. And even that wouldn't even begin to describe the agony of having molten metal poured down your throat. Created out of ironic symbolism, this method of execution was reserved for those who truly needed to swallow their pride. Take, for example, the wealthy Roman commander Manius Achilles. His papa, also named Manius, was a ruthless and greedy governor that forced harsh taxes on the general public. Well, like father, like son, said the people.
Bro, he's using the Lava Mario music for this part. I just noticed. God.
Manius Jr. to become a greedy butthole himself. That's one heck of an assumption to make, but condemning people to death for fun was kind of the thing to do in ancient Rome. After suffering defeat at the hands of Anatolian ruler Mithridates the Great during the First Mithridatic War in the year 89 BC, Manius was captured and eventually executed. When picking a suitable method to send Manius into the Great Bed Bath & Beyond, he really decided to go for the gold. Yeah, he just dumped melted metal down Manius's food hole as a testament to his greed and thirst for power.
Does it have to be
so
gold,
what
though?
the heck does ingesting molten metal do to the human body? Not good things. Not good things at all. Molten gold sits at around 1,000 degrees Celsius, so the instant that the metal contacts the flesh,
what's that in Fahrenheit? I'm American.
Any inherent moisture into steam. In doing so, the metal will cool and harden, essentially creating a big metal plug in your throat, causing suffocation. Now,
Way
here's
more.
a science lesson for you today. Science lesson! When liquids evaporate to a gas, they expand very quickly. Rapid expansion in a closed system, like say your body, creates severe pressure. Considering that your internal organs are not built for said extreme pressures, you can probably see where this causes a problem. But don't worry, it sorts itself out rather quickly because your organs rupture. The good news is that you'd probably pass out and die before you even get to the point of having your internals turn into a 4th of July display. Immurement is just a fancy word for live entombment, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's one of those punishments that introverts would be like, oh yeah,
god, it just made me sick to think about.
To get more Doritos, and that they're just probably gonna die in there. And if you've ever played Minecraft with your buddies, you probably experienced immurement firsthand when you came back to your room after mommy gave you your Ritalin. The practice was, unsurprisingly, mainly performed in the Roman Empire, but it has been seen in other areas like ancient Persia or Mongolia. Man, who do they put in charge of coming up with all these execution ideas?
I love my job.
This signature send-off method was usually reserved for virgin priestesses who were found guilty of breaking their chastity vows by getting on their knees and praying on some dong. However, there is historical evidence to suggest that it was used in other ways too, like mass entombment for prisoners of war, a punishment for thieves, or even just silly self-sacrificing fellers who voluntarily walled themselves in for religious purposes.
Why would you do that?
Just because they don't like people.
Yeah, fuck off!
So yeah, all those poor unfortunate souls would be sealed in a room no bigger than a New York apartment, while the lucky ones were placed in something a little bit more reasonable. Being completely sealed in means there's no light, no sound, or fresh air. So don't Dutch oven yourself.
Damn it!
Being isolated, you're just left to lose your goddamn mind in complete darkness and silence as your body wastes away from starvation and dehydration.
How long would that
Unless,
take?
of course, you accidentally trip over a rock and whack your melon on the stone wall.
That'd probably be better. Death by tree.
Trees are pretty useful. They convert
Is this
carbon
the bamboo?
dioxide into oxygen. Can be used
I
for
saw
building
this on
materials,
Mythbusters
and can even
one
help
time.
You execute your enemies.
I think.
Oh, you didn't know that last one? Well, let me explain. Sure, you could convert your enemies to a cool wind chime on a tree, but why not go all out? That's what Roman Emperor Aurelian thought, at least. Being emperor and all, Aurelian was a bit of a control freak. He demanded only the finest behavior from his
Oh
numerous
wait, maybe this
army
isn't
soldiers.
what I think it
That being
is.
the case, any thoughts of drinking, gambling, stealing, pillaging, and, all the stuff soldiers typically did were tossed out the window. Every man was expected to be in tip-top shape with their armor polished and their weapons sharp at a moment's notice. So it was just an army of a bunch of lame straight-edge dorks. Bit of a buzzkill, right? Those who refused to follow such protocols were setting themselves up for some severe punishment, and not even the kind that some people would find fun. Except this guy. For example, one soldier decided to have a fellow soldier's wife polish his spear in private. But the spear was his wiener, and in Aurelian's all-seeing perverted eyes, that's a big no-no.
That's
And now he
bad.
had to make a choice. How was he going to make an example of this man to his fellow soldiers? Well, any good leader is resourceful, so why not harness the power of Mother Nature to do the trick? Oh look, 2 trees. What are you gonna do with those? Tie me to each one and have them rip me apart? That is what he's gonna do. As a reasonable punishment, the soldier had his limbs strapped to 2 young trees, which were forced into a bent, crossed position. Once released, the spry,
How do you
springy
think of
saplings did
that?
a solid conversion of potential energy to kinetic energy, ripping the soldier in 2 and giving visual confirmation that a lesson had been learned.
Okay, that one
what's
fucking
cooking?
sucked.
Oh, it's
That
me.
does not
Well,
look fun.
I must have been a bad boy, because getting boiled alive was generally reserved for those who were guilty of murder. But the only thing I'm guilty of is killing some brewskis, am I right, fellas? Okay. Used in medieval Europe as far back as 1392, boiling alive was the choice punishment for other crimes as well. Treason, forgery, counterfeiting, thievery, grape without the G, swindling,
Forgery?
you name it. Even the Japanese were on the hot topic of boiling their criminals. Legendary thief and Robin Hood equivalent Ishikawa Goemon was boiled alive with his son in 1594 after they tried to assassinate a warlord. I mean, what did you think would happen? Even though it's pretty straightforward, humans have found different ways to make boiling someone alive more entertaining. For instance, what liquid is being used? Water's great and all, but that's as boring as it gets. So instead, use something
True,
with a little
so
more
boring.
oomph, like oil or tar. Now here's another quick science lesson. Another science lesson!
Yay.
Water, as I'm sure you know, boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Sorry, fellow Americans, we're working with metric today, but you'll still get the point.
I don't
Once
get
a
it.
liquid reaches a boiling point,
I don't know
the liquid
Celsius.
cannot physically get any hotter in normal atmospheric conditions, so it vaporizes to a gas. So in a sense, you hit a limit of pain able to be inflicted on your victim. No
Oh,
need to worry
no.
though, because you can always upgrade your cauldron juice. You see, oil has an average boiling point of 200 degrees Celsius, and tar can get up to 500 degrees. And when it's that hot, you'll easily be able to melt skin right off your victim like some tender baby back ribs from Chili's. Another way you can get creative is how you want to boil your prisoner. Want to just huck them in, slowly lower them, or how about you just have them sit in there as it heats up? You know, there's definitely a small window in there where it actually feels nice for a bit, then the boiling happens, and that can get pretty hard to watch. Hey, do you think we should—
Hold up. Let him cook.
The fuck is a
Now
blood
here's where
eagle?
we get down to the real gruesome stuff. But this time, the Romans are left to the wayside. Now, we swing our attention to the Norse. You know, like the Vikings. They were pretty tame
Ooh.
people, right? Right. From around the year 800 to 1100 in northern Europe, the Vikings were adamant explorers that would often pick fights with people that they thought they could conquer, which was pretty much everyone, even themselves. They raided
Nice.
and pillaged and plundered in the name of their many gods under the polytheistic Old Norse paganism. Although a relatively barbaric and fierce warrior people, the Vikings did have laws to abide by. Insults and petty crimes were punishable by humiliations like public tarring and feathering, but the heavier the crime, the heavier the punishment. Cheat on your spouse? Lose a limb. Stole from a neighbor? Now you're their slave. Caught in a lie? Well, time to carry around hot burning coals for a while. All is well
That
and
all
good,
seems
but no punishment was
reasonable
as
to me.
severe as the Blood Eagle. Being an execution, of course the goal is death, but might as well make it
What
as
the
agonizing as
fuck?
possible to really send a message like, hey,
Wait, that's
That
the
thing.
blood eagle?
this could be you. Although it was rarely performed, the Blood Eagle
Oh
went
my
like this.
god. How's the blood eagle?
The first thing you're going to want to do is have your victim laying flat on their tummy like so. Then give them a nice pat on the back to reassure them that everything is going to be absolutely terrible. Get a nice sharp knife and plunge it into the back and pull through the flesh, exposing the spine. Next, you're going to want to start breaking each one of these little ribs here. Give your chiropractics a try and just give them a nice, good crack. Oh, hear that? Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Now, just bloom those nice ribs out like a fresh flower. As a finishing touch, grab both lungs, don't worry, he won't be needing them, and rip them out so they loosely resemble wings. And there you have it.
How do they not die from this? Wait, do they die or are they alive? They do,
boy,
but then they just hang them
also
up?
called the boats. This was by no means a pleasure
No,
cruise.
I know they do,
Imagine
but
you're on
how
a
do they
nice,
not
relaxing
die
fishing trip with your
immediately?
dad. You're having a good time. He's having a beer.
But, like, how is it
They give you a few
eventually?
nibbles here
Their
and there.
lungs
He's
are
having another
out.
beer. You're excited about what kind of fish you might catch to make your old man proud.
How do they
He's on
not
his
die
10th beer.
instantly?
And then you
What
start to
the
realize
fuck?
something. Your dad couldn't be there because your parents had a messy divorce decades ago, and he didn't get any visitation rights because of his extreme alcoholism. After that, you never saw him again until you buried him. You're alone in this boat. How long's it been? Days? Must be. You look down and you see your body in ruin. Open sores with flies and rats tearing at your flesh. You're festering in your own filth, and the infection is spreading. You can't even feel it anymore. You can't feel anything anymore. Except that sun, that hot sun. Baking. Broiling. You look to the sky once more, and there, you see him. You see him again. You want to reach out, but your hands are restrained. I'm ready, you say, with all the strength you have left. Hi, ready, he says. I'm Dad. That's kind of what it was like to experience scaphism. Even without a tragic backstory, it was a pretty painful experience. Developed by the Persians around 500 BC, a victim sentenced to the boats would be tied down facing up in a boat. Sometimes there would even be a second boat placed on top,
I've heard of this
sealing
before.
the victim's body except for their head, hands, and feet, which were tied down. The victim would be force-fed and covered in honey and moo juice until they vomited from their front hole and their back hole. The boat would be cast adrift in a pond and left out in the sunlight. Over time, the foul odors attracted swarms of insects and rodents that would feast on the victim for days. The victim eventually passes away from infection, blood loss, dehydration, or starvation. One account had a soldier survive 17 days before finally succumbing to his wounds. Brutal. Okie doke. That wraps up another video. If you're into more stuff like this, you can check out
These ones end so
any
abruptly.
of my other content, really. I'll see you over there.
Oh, God. No, 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 no. Another one.